What's up, guys? Well, this week is shaping up to be one of the most significant weeks for crypto in the United States this year. Right now, as we speak, it is Crypto Week in the US House of Representatives. Policymakers in Washington are dedicating this entire week to debating and potentially voting on crucial legislation that could define the future of digital assets in America. We're talking about bills like the Clarity Act, aiming to bring much needed regulatory clarity, the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, which seeks to protect our financial privacy from potential central bank digital currency, and the Genius Act, designed to create a clear framework for stablecoins. This isn't just background noise, although I don't know if you can hear the construction. It should finish in 15 minutes, but these are decisions that could have a massive impact on the crypto market and our investment. Now, the House Rules Committee met yesterday to set the terms and conditions for debate on the three crypto bills, and the primary outcome of the meeting was to establish the schedule for the bills to be brought to a vote on the House floor. So the Clarity Act, which is the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, and the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act are expected to be voted on tomorrow, whilst the Genius Act, which is guiding and establishing national innovation for US stablecoins Act, is scheduled for voting on Thursday. So this week is a week where literally anything can happen. So in this video, I'm going to focus on the best case scenario for this, and we're going to hunt for some buy zones on USA narrative-based alts with clear invalidations so that you know if something else happens, don't commit your money just yet. Because if you've been following the market over the weekend, you probably noticed a familiar pattern play out. We saw the classic buy the rumor pump into the weekend, particularly with the USA-based altcoins. So money flowed into those projects anticipating positive news or at least some forward movement during the crypto week that is happening this week. But as often happens with the week now officially underway, we're seeing Bitcoin take a slight breather, pulling back. At the moment, it's about 116K. So the big question on everyone's mind is, which USA-based altcoins should we be looking at now that we're getting this pullback? So I know I often cover my usual favorites on this channel like XRP, HBAR Curve, Cardano, whatever. But today I want to talk about some different trade opportunities for you guys. So before we get into it, first we're going to take a look at the dominance and totals. But I need you to do me a favor, and I need you to hit that like button if you haven't already. And if you are not subscribed, consider subscribing so that you can be notified every time I drop a new video. Now, first thing that I want to do is just take a very, very quick look at Bitcoin. I'm not going to spend much time on it, but I just want to take a quick look because the CPI did just come out and we had the classic trap the longs kind of candle. So typical right here. So this is the candle on the 15-minute news event. You can see that we had this spike up, rejected the 50 EMA, 50 EMA on the 15-minute time frame. Now, the thing is we need to wait for the US to open to see the US reaction. But if I'm, like I said, I'm not spending much time on Bitcoin, but I just want to tell this for you guys that are currently trading Bitcoin. If I'm to follow the model as the model is, we can very clearly see here on Bitcoin that this here was a level 1 drop after the Monday move fake out. So if you happen to catch my Sunday video, I was talking about the potential, because price was consolidating all weekend, I was talking about the potential for it to break out. It was building the momentum here to break out to the upside to absolutely destroy the bears that were waiting at 120K. So it turns out that's what happened. And now we're seeing the pullback following that. So we did have a false move week beginning this week, but we had it a little bit differently because it faked to the upside in a trend that was bullish. It's kind of a whole, that's getting a bit too complicated, but moral of the story is the way that the false move week beginning happens when you're in a very strong macro trend is different to the typical way that it happens when we're basically ranging. So anyway, that's our level 1 drop so far, and this is 2. So if we're to just follow the model as it is and not worry about news, we would be expecting another drop to come. And when we have a look at the current buy orders, these white ones in this zone, the highest amount is at about 114,600, but there's kind of this whole range here that I'm interested in between that level and about 115 and a half. And the reason for that is it just lines up with other things. So it lines up with the 800 EMA, and it lines up with the halfway mark of a 1 hour candle vector, being this one right here. So yeah, look, like I said, we've had CPI come out now. People might be thinking that the results mean pump, but if I'm to follow the model that I follow, I would expect that there is more downside. So look, even if it starts to move up at the start of US, have a look at the 50% Asia around 118K. If there's weakness there, then I mean, if it does push up that far, I'm not saying it will, but if it does, or it remains under 50 EMA, it's still currently bearish. And that's when I'll be looking for it for this level to see if, you know, the final damage is done and we're going to pivot around there. So that's my feeling on Bitcoin. But I promise you I wouldn't spend too much time on it. So what I'm going to do now that we're seeing that Bitcoin is having this pullback, I want to have a look at the dominances to see, first of all, if it's a good time to be looking at alts. So my caution to you guys, even though well, it's a couple of cautions. So the first caution is that the run up that we saw on alts happened over a weekend. And you guys that watch this channel, you're smart enough to know now to not trust weekend price action. Okay, so whilst I think that, you know, it's a good beginning, and yeah, I'm not even going to say anything else. It was a good beginning, okay, to seeing alts finally move over the weekend. It was a good beginning. But couple that with the fact that it's crypto week, that it was a weekend, there's a very strong chance that it was a buy the rumor, sell the dip situation. I don't think it's the time to go all in. I think it's the time to be looking for confirmation to go heavier, right? They're two different things. And I just want to get that point across, because whilst I am feeling bullish, I'm very cautiously bullish because it's a news event pump essentially, and also because we've seen many times in this cycle the Bitcoin dominance have a temporary pullback and the alts ran, and every single time we've had this temporary pullback and this one and any of them that we've had where the alts have had their little 3 to 6 week run, everybody has then said alt season is starting now. So how do we know this time is different? We don't actually know that yet. And so that's just my biggest caution to you. You know, like I said, just wait for confirmations. We've had the initial pump. You're definitely not too late. If it's going to sustain itself and we're going to continue, then the initial pump will be proven with a higher low, a macro higher low, which is what I'm going to talk about on today's video a little bit more. So my thing with this is that it's good that, sorry, it's good that the Bitcoin dominance is coming down, but it hasn't actually changed structure yet. So wouldn't get too excited. Like I said to you, for me, I'm not like a buy and hold kind of person yet in this cycle. I will get more excited to do that when I see the actual structure change. But in the meantime, when there is alts pumping and there is upside, I'm more than happy to short-term trade that. You know, so I'm always looking for something to turn into a macro trend. But until it's actually proven to me that it's doing that, everything is considered a short-term trade. So for what I need to see for me to switch from short-term trading to more macro mindset is I need to see the structure change on this Bitcoin dominance. And so look, at the end of the day, we've got higher highs and higher lows. The structure has not yet changed, although the pullback is short-term good for altcoins. So I hope I'm clear on that. The USD, not USD, the stable coin dominance here is great, coming down great, showing that people are willing to risk. Perfect. So we just want to see this continue to create lower highs and lower lows. We have broken this very key prior support. Perfect. But we've got this prior resistance down here now that we want to break below next. So good. This is trending down. Fantastic. Not much else to say about it. And then the total. So this chart is total minus Bitcoin and minus stable coins. And when I look at this again, we've had the initial breakout from the flag, perfect. And a retest is what we're looking for again, just to gain more confidence that this isn't a one-time fake out. So until you have the move proven with a higher low, consider everything a one-time fake out, trade the trend whilst the trend is there, but be sure to lock in profits. That is basically the moral of the story for what these three charts are telling us right now, okay? Be joyful whilst it's happening, but don't get too carried away. Definitely don't get the FOMO thinking you missed out because, yeah, like I said, moves haven't proven themselves yet. Now, I can see some comments saying, Algo, Solana, smash the likes. Yes, smash the likes, my friends. I am 20x long on AVAX. Okay, I hope your stop loss is in profit. Liquidations at 115. Yes, that's well, okay, I'll go back quickly. No, it's here. This is the cluster here that lines up with the buy orders that I mentioned at around 115. So yeah, that's why Bitcoin is I'm kind of hoping that we do come down to that zone, which just gives us a little bit more of a pullback for alts. So let's talk about some alts. So first up, I've got Solana. Now look, I'm not interested. Okay, I just want to be clear, I'm not interested, but I know that you guys are interested, so I'm covering it for you, but I am not interested in Solana. So moral of the story is these are the liquidation levels, the highest pockets of liquidity that I've marked out for you, and looks like we're currently holding this one as support. It's right above the 50 EMA. I'm on the daily time frame. And because I am looking for macro changes in trend. So if I give you a zone to look at, if you are a confident trader, keep an eye out on those zones, but trade them on smaller time frames. I'm only giving them to you on the daily time frame because if you can end up catching the entry on a small time frame, and then it does turn into a macro time frame trend change, you're going to get a much bigger trade. So I'm doing the homework for you, but you have to trigger the entries when you see that trigger on the smaller time frames. So right now we're looking for Solana to hold at about 155, let's say, to about 158, and that will be just above the daily time frame 50 EMA. Now, if it does break down below that, I wouldn't give up on it just yet. I tell you, when I said to you I'm not interested, you're probably wondering why, because it's still lower highs. Sorry guys, I'm being stuck inside because now it's summer in Dubai and it's very hot outside, and so you have to spend 24 hours a day inside in the aircon, and it's drying out my throat and it's making me cough. So I just, yeah, apologize for that, but I hope that it doesn't last for too long. But anyway, so what was I saying? Yeah, so pull back to the 50 EMA would be good, but if it does eat that all of that liquidity and go through it, don't act yet, because there is another high pocket between 142 and about 146. So those would be the two zones that I would be, if the price comes back into either, that's where I would be having my alerts, and then I would start looking to the lower time frames for an entry, when the buyers turn up in those zones. Now, if Solana breaks down below both of those zones, I've put my invalidation here at about 134. And the reason for that is, if I zoom in on this, even though that would still technically be a higher low, it's eating up too much of this green vector candle for my liking. So it wouldn't technically mean that Solana is no longer a long opportunity, because as long as it stays clear of this vector candle, there could be a long opportunity anywhere above that. But the reason why I put it as an invalidation is because the current trade idea of a breakout and retest, that would then be invalid. So I would be looking for a new type of setup if we broke lower than this liquidation zone. And it just wouldn't be this one. Yeah. So hopefully that's clear. So that's kind of my thoughts on Solana, looking out at these two zones. The next one I have for you is AVAX. Now, AVAX looks delicious, but it's cautiously delicious. And I'll tell you why. Let's zoom out massively on AVAX. And we can see that after a really long-term downtrend, AVAX has created a daily time frame W formation. That is the potential beginning of something really good. Now, listen to my words, because I said potential beginning. Why did I say that? Because the W is not yet confirmed. So when you have a W formation, you have the center peak, right? And so the center peak creates sometimes a change in structure, or sometimes it just comes back to a prior resistance, which you can see here. In order for the structure to change, so what happens after that is you get a higher low, which creates the second side of the W. But in order for the structure to change, it has to then create a higher high. And as you can see right now, it hasn't done that yet. So at this point in time, it's a lower high. Now, it could just be because it's on its way to making that, right? So yeah, like I said, there's still, it's a good one to watch. It's a very good one to watch. But the problem with W formations is if the right side of the W does not create a higher high from the center peak of the W, it has a higher chance of failing and actually then breaking down lower and actually continuing to the downside. So it is very high risk to get involved in it right now as a macro trade, I'm saying. But it has really big potential. And so, sorry guys, what I ideally would love to see for AVAX, because we've got this big kind of liquidity pocket right here, like we've got liquidity all the way up to the 800 EMA, but this is the highest amount above the current price. I would like to see AVAX actually go up to take that out. And it may not create a higher high just yet. It would be good if it did, but if it didn't, it may just come up into where I've marked my area of interest. And then if it then came back, it could come back for its then lower liquidity, or if it left it free and it did this to the 50 EMA, that would still be bullish to me as well. So in an ideal world, I actually want to see it take the upper liquidity before it creates a higher low. So that's what I'd be looking out for on AVAX. Now, of course, if it doesn't do that, and if like where it is right now ends up confirming as a lower high, and then it comes down into this liquidity zone, again, it's going to be a different setup. So I wouldn't automatically long off that. I need to see, I would need to see what happens in the zone. And the invalidation for me would be at about $15.40, because that would then be underneath the second peak of the W. And that means that the W is invalidated. So we reset and start again. Okay. I can see comments saying 114K will hold, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. I think that too. Long now. I'm not answering questions like that. The Alpha Queen is in the house. Solana is acting weirdly, so weirdly. I feel like Solana has had its moment in the spotlight, and like now no one cares about it. It's like it's just no one cares. But some people do care. I don't know why. Why no interest in Solana? No interest for me personally. Yeah, first of all, like Nova Makar, I don't know how to say that. Nov Makar says, I've had Solana. I have Solana, so I'm not saying I don't have it. I've got Solana since $8, but I trade charts, and the chart doesn't look exciting to me when you compare it to HBAR and Curve and CVX and things like that. It's just not as pretty. Okay, anyway, let's move on because I get sidetracked so easily. So I think I've been clear on my my position with AVAX. Before I get into the next one, guys, if you're looking for somewhere to trade, check out Femex, and I'll tell you why. Because first of all, if you use the link in the description down below, you get VIP 1 tier first, which means you actually get lower fees than the normal fees. But in addition to that, because especially right now, because we're waiting for these pullbacks on alts, if they get confirmed, you're going to make more money if you coin margin trade the alts as opposed to USDT margin. Now, hopefully you know what that means, but essentially in a bull market, you don't want to be making your profits in a stable coin. Like that doesn't make any sense. So if you're going to be trading futures, you want to be making profits in the coins that are bullish. And so with Femex, they've got Coin M here. And so they've got many options, and they're all the main options. So they've got Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, Solana, SUI, who I know we're going to cover SUI soon, Cardano, Link we're also going to cover, and AVAX, which I think, yeah, I just covered. So there's a lot of options here. So if you actually own any of these spot, then you can use them as margin and then open them using just a low leverage. You don't have to go high leverage. Just you can open them with a low leverage and ride the rest of the cycle with these coins on leverage, and you'll end up making more than if you just held them spot. So it's really, really good for that. Anyway, check out FEMX, link in the description if you want to use that. But they also have futures and spot and everything else as well. So yeah, it's been a really good exchange. I've been trading on quite a bit lately, actually. Okay, so let's move on. Litecoin was one I wanted to cover. Don't laugh, but people are Googling it. Like, I literally was like, what are the altcoins that most people are Googling right now? And Litecoin was one of them. And guys, I tell you, that's a sign that retail is coming. I did this very famous TikTok once. It was a long time ago, but it blew up, where I said, alt season begins when XRP and Litecoin runs. And it never begins any other time. So if you guys are in my community, you will back me and you will know that I've said this for many, many years. And XRP has run. We know why, for different reasons, but Litecoin might be the thing that confirms it. So I think it's worth keeping an eye on. I know that there are ETF applications for Litecoin for whatever reason, but the moral of the story is the chart itself actually does look really good, especially if we get this pullback, because it will be a really cheap pullback. It'd be a good spot to buy, because this liquidation zone lines up with this trend line here. So if Litecoin actually does pull back into that zone, it's going to create a third touch to this trend line. And if it did that, I would then expect at the very least, it's going to come up to then take the upper liquidity. So that's what I would be looking out for. Again, not a fan. I'm not a fan of any of this stuff. I'm just a trader of it. I'm a fan of money. Okay, I'm a fan of money in my pocket to live my life. I don't care what this stuff does. So as a trade, there is a potential here, but I would only do it if it did come back into this zone. Like if it came back to the 50 EMA, I wouldn't take a chance on it, because I think there are better alts to trade that are giving better percentages right now, right? So for this one, we're going to be tight with it, and only if it gets our zone and we see buyers in the zone will we get involved. If it does anything else, we're not chasing it. We'll just leave it. The invalidation for it, I've put at about $79.90, let's say $80. Again, because if it came too far into, hold on. If it came too far into this candle right here, it's going to create a lower low. So therefore that would invalidate it. Okay. Now I can see some of your requests in the chat about coins that I have covered on previous shows that are actually not yet invalidated. So I will, wait, how efficient am I being today? Oh, I'm being efficient. I'll go through them to see where we're at as an update, but let me just cover the next one. So what do I have next? I've done Sol AVAX. Okay, let's do SUI. So SUI broke out and it looks like it's going for this upper liquidity. Now, in this zone, anywhere in this zone, so the zone is between $4 and $4.80, it may come into some heavy resistance, and that's where we may then see a pullback. So it's looking strong now, and it doesn't look like it wants to pull back right now, but let it go. If it keeps going and you're not in it, let it go. If you're in it, fantastic, you're making money, but let it go for now. Let me just check the actual, that actual zone. Yeah, okay, so see here, this is the highest pocket right here, which is just above this prior high. So this would be even more of the interest really. So where is that? That is 4.25 to 4.4. So it's possible that this runs up, sorry, I'm so sorry, runs up into here, takes out this high pocket of liquidity, then comes and gives a higher low after that. Let me just see, where would my buy zone adjust if it came, if it did take that out? Yeah, I would then probably keep an eye on this whole vector candle as the area of interest. Okay, so this is what's the word? In anticipation of the price coming up into this high yellow zone. Okay, so if the price does come up there and then it pulls back, I would be looking for a higher low somewhere in this green vector candle here, because it will also be around that time. By the time it does all that, it will be around the 250 EMA. So you would have, if we're lucky enough to get it, we would have a lot of confluence around there if it does pull back into that zone. So that's between $3 to $3.50. And where that, you know what, I'm going to change this invalidation to here actually, because if it came down lower than this green candle, again, doesn't mean I would turn bearish on it. It would mean I want to reassess, and that this particular trade setup is no longer what I'm looking at. I'll start looking at something else. So the invalidation is at around $2.96 on that one. And all right, next I've got for you Link. Link as well is looking like a beautiful W formation after this move to the upside, lower highs, lower lows for a very long time. Market structure change here with a higher low, but again, hasn't yet broken the center peak of the W. So this one is looking very similar to AVAX. I know that there are a lot of fans with Link, and there's a lot of fans, but there's also a lot of like, how come it's not moving yet? So maybe it's just building the momentum to do it, because slowly that market structure is trying to change. So I think that if it does eventually break the center peak of the W, it will probably fly. But what I do like about it is that this high level of liquidity is right at the center peak of that W. So best case scenario, it continues up, takes out the liquidity, which means if you're not in it, you've missed out on that move, but that's fine. Then comes down and takes out some of this, maybe not all of it, because the area of interest would be this candle right here, okay? And then that's where you get involved. Like, that would be the perfect setup actually. So my invalidation's 1144. To be honest with you, if it came lower than that blue vector, I may reassess anyway. But something like this would be really good for a long-term position on Link. Again, providing we took out the upper liquidity first, come back, create the higher low, see the buyers. It may not be exactly here because we do have this whole zone. So this whole zone is $11.60 to $14. So anywhere there, a higher low would be a good spot to get involved. You know, pending the overall market is still bullish. Now, with most of these trades, like, these are the setups that when it actually comes time to triggering the trade, like I said to you, you know, you chart them on the daily because we're looking for something to turn into a macro trend change. And once you see that there's a possibility, that's when you go down to smaller time frames to try and get your entry, because that's how you get the best risk to reward. So these are the initial setups, but when it actually does come time to getting those entries, I'll be looking and I'll be hunting for them along with my team inside of TTC. So if you're wanting to learn how to trade this method in full, if you're wanting to be part of those trades with us, consider joining us at TTC. We do have a couple membership options available. It includes access to our daily market updates, which we do multiple times a day. The Asia, UK, US session, we have updates for every single one of them. That's perfect for our day traders. We have the macro updates and lots of other stuff. We have economic updates and all this sort of stuff. So anyway, if you're interested, check out our website. The link is in the description down below, and you can come and trade these setups with us. Okay, now, what else? Let's have a look at what Bitcoin's doing after CPI. Okay, so it's up at 50% Asia now. So this is the keys to see if it breaks down. If it doesn't break down below, like if it breaks above 50% Asia, it's pretty simple from here, because you're waiting for a higher low to confirm that change in trend. And that's when you would go, okay, I'm only getting 2 drops. For me, I don't do that. Like, I would still wait for my 3rd drop, because this isn't what I think no, I don't think that's what do I think is happening? Let me just process my thoughts. We've held the initial low of the day for a reason. However, Asia was a 3% range, which is a very wide range. So I would still be, this whole zone here still is the decision maker for me for Bitcoin, this whole zone, because it's 50% Asia to the 200 EMA. So you wouldn't long from here because it doesn't make sense with the counts. But if for whatever reason we're not going to get a level 3 drop, it will break above this zone and then eventually it will retest. And on the higher low is where it would be safer to look for longs. But for me personally, I still want to see it. I mean, it's looking strong now because it's 2 vectors, but I would want to see it run out of steam somewhere in this zone and still come down to here. I might be wrong on that. That's why I have my plan B if it changes structure. But ideally, I still do want to see this happen. It would make more sense to me. And it would be more aligned with my strategy if that were to happen. And that makes me worried that this is a fake out. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that. Okay, what do you want from me? What do you people want from me? What do you want me to chart? If you haven't hit the like button, I'm not charting your request. Pengu has been really moving after the cup and handle. Yes, let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at it. Do you know what? I was watching that like a hawk and then I didn't get it. Isn't that the way it always goes? All right, let's have a look. Wait, I don't have it on this chart. Where do I have it? Wait, I think, no, I have it on this. I have it on this one. Where is it? Yeah, look at that. Bang, bang, bang. It literally hit the area, perfect for an entry that we spoke about. It broke through the resistance that I said was the key. Target 1 smash, target 2 smash, and now waiting to see if we get target 3. Let me know in the comments if you actually got this trade, because like I'm sad I missed it, but I'll be happy as long as other people got it. You know, that's the main thing. Someone's got to make money off my TA. Otherwise, what am I doing here? You know, let me know in the comments. I want to see while I take a drink. Joe says, thank you for all your teachings. You're welcome. Thanks for the Pengu long. Is that how you say it, Pengu? XRP, please. Yep, I'll do XRP. Diano, I don't know how to say your name, excuse me, but it says I got it. Okay, well done, guys. Forgot to enter. I don't know what happened, but yeah, I didn't get it either. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Always another trade, always another trade. Okay, let's look at XRP because I can see all the comments. So XRP, same. So XRP was crazy, actually. I'm trying to think what happened. Oh, yes. This was the higher low setup, which happened here on this candle. Okay, and then broke out again. Smash through liquidity zone. Perfect. Let me take this off so we're no longer confused by it. It's hit 2 take profit ranges. Let's see where the liquidity... Oh, should I have done that? No, I shouldn't have done that. Let's keep them there. Let's have a look where the current liquidity is. Okay, so this makes sense now why we had that little wick there. So we've got this initial rejection here at this high level of liquidity. Look, for me, XRP is a long-term play. You know, I'm not ever going to short it, maybe in a bear market, but I mean, for the rest of this cycle, I'm not looking to short it. I'm always looking to accumulate it. And this is one that I trade with coin margin. 100% I trade this with coin margin because when it flies, it absolutely flies. And so it means I don't have to buy it spot. You know, I have my initial purchase of XRP and then I chuck it on coin margin futures on like a 2 or 3x. And then bang, I just make a ton more money than what I would make if I just trade it on a perpetual contract and collect USDT at the end. So yeah, like I said, do that on Femex. There's opportunity there. It's massive. Let's look at the liquidity now for a potential pullback. So if we move this, we've got a very big range here, but that would require a very large pullback. So not 100% sure that I would bank on that. Let's maybe keep an eye on these 2 zones right here. Because they would line up with a retest of the prior resistance right here. Okay, so you can see 1, 2, 3 prior resistance. We've got a green vector in that area. We've got the EMAs will come up and be in that area, and we've got the liquidity. So these 2 zones will be perfect for a retest. It's going to take some patience. It will take probably a bigger sell off to get the zone, and we may not get it. So I'm not saying it's 100% going to pull back there, but I'm saying if you want a high quality trade, that's where you'll be looking. So that's between about $2.50 is the lower end and about $2.70 is the higher end. But look, it may come up, take this out before you even get the pullback. So anyway, that would be best place to buy in my opinion. All right, what else do you want? What else do you want? Link I covered earlier, so you can watch back a bit later. XLM will be similar to XRP, and here's how I would play XLM. If XRP pulls back and you don't get the entry, instead of watching it and crying over the fact that you didn't get the entry, flick over to XLM, because XLM will likely not move yet and it will move after XRP. So if you miss the pullback on XRP, look forward, not backwards. It's gone on XRP. Flick to the XLM chart, mark your levels, and just make sure you get the entry there, because it will fly following XRP if XRP happens to fly again. All right, what else is there? Cardano. So Cardano, look at that. Perfectly on the alert right there was where the entry was. We can get rid of this now because it's not going to come back there. And that gave this here. So that gave this here. So what do I feel about Cardano now? Because right now, look how it's perfectly wicked into that high liquidity zone right there. So this was an area to take some profit. If you did get that trade, it's taken this. And it makes sense for it to struggle here because of this red vector, which is what I said on that video when we first covered it. Again, would be a beautiful pullback now to the 50 EMA. Let's see where the liquidity is. Okay, so I would say, yeah, it's going to end up being around here. I have to take a breath so I don't cough. Yeah, if we get a pull, look at that. That's going to beautifully line up with the 50 EMA and these vectors. It would be a great entry. It would be great. What else? Let's just add some more compliments while we're here. We'll go from here. What is it going to be? A 38 to a 50 fib. Yeah, that's a really good zone. So I'd be looking between 0.65 to 0.69. And yeah, as long as it holds that 50 EMA, that'd be good. And because we've got these wicks to the upside, it may come sooner than we think, or it may take this high yellow zone first. But even if it does, don't freak out and think you missed it, because there's always going to be a pullback. So that high yellow zone is to where? It's to about 0.78. So yeah, it either pulls back now or it goes up to 7.8, then it pulls back. But whichever one it does, the 50 EMA on the daily in that zone, that's the entry for me. All right, what else? Let me try and look for something I haven't done so that I can chart it live, so that you know someone else behind the scenes doesn't pay. I don't pay them to do my charts like other channels. I do my charts myself, I swear. All right, let me find one that I haven't charted. Probably, but I want to find one that a number of you have said, so I serve more people at once, you know? So what have we got that is late but present? Is Femex non-KYC? Only with that link in the description. So if you go direct, it's not. But if you use the link in the description, it is. 50. While I'm having a look, let's see, what is Bitcoin doing? What is Bitcoin doing? All right, let's see. We want a bearish engulfing. We want a bearish engulfing. Please, Lord, let's all pray to the market maker. Let's pray for a bearish engulfing. All right, let me find a coin. Okay. A lot of you said Pepe. All right, let's do that one. I don't think I've looked at this for a long time. What exchange should we look at it on? What would be the oldest? Probably OKX. All right, let me zoom out. Oh, okay, interesting. So, yeah, interesting. I kind of like it. It's got, let me chart this up. So we've got a flag that's broken out. Very easy to identify. Okay. And it looks like, oh, I don't know if it will come down lower. Looks like it's consolidating at the 10 EMA, which is extremely bullish. Oh, we don't have our little cheat code for this. Wait, is Pepper's not damn it, we can't see. Wait, is it over here? No, this only shows Bitcoin. Damn. All right, what about here? Let's look at I want Binance. I want not spot. I want futures. Damn it, it doesn't have it. Well, we can't cheat, unfortunately, with Pepe, so we just have to trade what we can see. And what I see is a flag that is breaking out, and it looks like it's only retesting the 10 EMA. Oh, but it's an M formation on the 4 hour. Okay, so then the 4 hour is our key here. So this vector is the one to keep an eye out on. And if that's the area of interest. So if the price comes up in there and damn it, and creates a lower high, you would expect we're going to have another 2 levels of drop. Don't know to where. Check the 200 EMA first. Yeah, the 200 EMA makes sense because of this vector here. And that would be a better area to then go long. I don't know if I would short this, to be honest with you, because it's got some speed in it. So it's quite bullish, and it's bullish above the 50 EMA, but it's got this roadblock right here. So yeah, I don't think I would short it. But if you get a lower high, I would prefer to wait for it to come down into this zone and go long. That would be my play on this. But I'm just like that. Like, I prefer to trade with the macro trend rather than day trade short long all the time. Even though I'm always pointing out shorts and longs on this channel, I will rarely take the shorts unless there's a few criteria. And my criteria is there has to be super high leverage. I have to be able to clearly identify my counts, and the funding rates have to be high. Right now, the funding rates are not high. All right, guys, I'm going to do one more. What's the time? Yeah, I'm going to do one more, and then I'm not allowed to say that because you're not supposed to know when I end the video. Wait, how many people are watching? Can you tell me in the comments? Wait, can I see here? Wow, 893. Can I see the likes? Let me see. How many likes do I have? 500. That's a good ratio, guys. I'm proud of that. Thank you. If there's any more of you who haven't liked, I'd appreciate some more. But that's actually pretty good. That has earned you another one. What about TON? All right, let's talk about TON. Let us talk about TON because no, wait. I think TON I'll do on this one. I swear I had it in my watch list here. Let's talk about TON because it's sorry, guys. It's a potential opportunity that I'm looking out for because of a potential change in structure. But right now, it's a dismal break, which is not impressive. Have I drawn my line incorrectly? Let's check. Yeah, it's a dismal break, which is not impressive. So I would not necessarily get involved now, but I would be looking out for this. I want a stronger break to really change the structure, and then the higher low, and that would again probably line up somewhere around the 50 EMA if and when it happens. But yeah, it's not strong. Like I don't know why it's not that strong. Can we see where the liquidity is? Okay, maybe up here. So maybe around $3 to $3.10, but it's got to break out first. And do you know what? It actually might break out and run to the 200 EMA before it even comes back here. And I know you're going to want to get that breakout, aren't you? You're not going to want to wait for it to do it and then come back. I can read your mind. All right, so let's have a look at a lower time frame then. Wait, I need some thinking time. Somebody sing. Okay, so I know why the price is struggling where it's struggling. Do I? Yeah. Okay. The price is struggling where it's struggling because it's in this red vector zone right here. And that was a high volume, like move to the downside. So yeah, like a large candle move to the downside. And ever since price has tried to return there, it has rejected. The longer it stays in the zone, the more chance it's going to break out to the upside. So the fact that it's consolidated here is very good. It's very good. So if you want to be part of this potential move, wait, where do I think it could go to? The daily 200 EMA. Well, that might be a bit, maybe this should be our target. All right, now let me have a look. What does that line up with? Okay. I don't want to say this because it's a bit of a risky trade, but I would long it now. But Bitcoin might hurt us. Let me go back to Bitcoin. Okay. Bitcoin hasn't given us enough information to decide, but look, that's not a big drop anyway. Tell me in the comments what you would do. Tell me, I want to know what you would do with this coin. I promise your idea won't throw me off. Daniel says to the 1 hour. Live during New York session. I know. I stayed up for you guys, even though it's only 5:30. What indicator is that on your chart that shows the levels? It's an indicator that it's a private indicator for our members. It's not publicly available. Tight stop loss, bad answer. What did Miss On Chain say? I got to read it. She said, let's do it. Look at the wick though. Look at the wick at the top of the candle. That's signaling something to you. Wait till out of the zone. That's clever. But what if it just flies? I'd not buy it. I'd long it. I'm long already. 50 EMA retest you'd wait for. Okay. I'd just not buy ton at all. I'm on the same page as you, but it was a request. Okay, so my feeling is that because I think that Bitcoin should pull back, I would rather wait to see if Bitcoin does that because it might bring down the ton entry a little bit lower. Look, Bitcoin's looking not so too bad right now. It may change structure from here, but I would rather see if I'm going to get this first. If Bitcoin changes the structure, then I would get involved in this. But so here's how I would play this. because there's such heavy resistance here at 3. Now you got to marry these two things together, okay? So on the presence of Bitcoin breaking and changing structure, this should also change and break structure, not at the same time, but at some point in time, and then retest. And I would get involved there up to, first of all, this target, this candle here below this magenta vector, so 3.3, second target 3.5, but I do think it's going to go to 3.5 eventually. I'll tell you that much. So it's just a matter of how do we get the best entry. So that if Bitcoin breaks to the upside and retests 50% Asia, I would be looking for this to break and retest and then go long. If Bitcoin goes lower to my target, this will come lower, most likely, and might even go lower than the 50 EMA because we've got this vector candle right here. So a nice stop hunt down, that would make me more bullish on this. A nice stop hunt into this zone, get the entry. You're going to have a better risk to reward. That's my preferred setup. I don't generally take break and retest trades. I like to take retracement trades after, well, actually, to be honest with you, I like the second peak of the W. But if I miss that, I prefer break and retest over, sorry, not break and retest, retracements over break and retest trades. So ideally, I would like to get something like this. And then if it ran to the first 800 EMA, let's say, it's a 12.5 to 1, depending on where you actually enter. But it's at least a what, 8 to a 12.5 to 1 risk reward trade. It's huge. And I do think it will go to 3.5 if the market remains bullish. So it could be a massive trade. As a trade, as a coin, I hate it. As a trade, it's showing potential. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out Femex, check out our memberships, and I'll see you guys on the next video.